it's imperative to understand like what you're trying to say or what you are trying to create or what you stand for or what the idea is behind your business. Like, it's imperative, even if it's just for yourself to know.
Hello everybody and welcome to Show Love episode 7. Yes, 7. My name is Ben, I will be your host, and joining me across the ditch from Perth, WA is Mel Branson from Till Death.
G'day!
How's it going? G'day!
Pretty good. Yeah, pretty good.
Sweet as. Okay, so do you want to tell everybody a little bit about who you are? And then we'll sort of break down what today's topic's going to be all about.
Yeah, sure. So my name's Mel, and my wedding video business is called Till Death. I've been filming weddings since around 2015, but I've been creating videos for nearly 10 years. So I studied multimedia in 2008, 2009. And that kind of led me on this path of wanting to just create films. I think originally, like a lot of people, I wanted to make music videos and documentaries, and it just kind of evolved, and I found myself working in advertising, creating like branded video content. And yeah, when I was doing that, people just kept asking me to film their weddings, and for a long time I kept saying no. But yeah, one day I just said, fuck it, I'll do it. Oh shit, can I swear?
Yeah, you can swear, it's fine. It's not sponsored.
I should have asked that before. So one day I was just like, sure, I'll do it. And I just had the best time. I had so much fun. And I guess the rest is history. So here we are.
Wicked. Epic. Okay. Well, to give everybody a bit of a heads up on what we're going to be talking about today, I got Mel on the show to talk about all things branding, really. And specifically, like, non-generically wedding branding, because obviously your brand is Till Death, and it's not the kind of usual elegant, flowery, feminine kind of, vernacular of wedding vendors. And it's wicked. It's so uniquely you, and it's just something that I imagine couples who don't entirely gel with, the wedding look, might see your website, after seeing, 20 videographers who all look the same, and land on your website and go, this is awesome. I totally vibe with this. So, I thought we could have a chat today, just breaking down your whole brand and how you go about sort of standing up from the crowd, really. So, do you want to start us off a little bit about how Till Death, came to be?
Yeah. So I think I was probably maybe a year into shooting weddings before I actually solidified, I guess, the brand. I guess when I first started, so the first few weddings that I said yes to, I actually hadn't even seen a wedding video, which I think was like the best time. I think the stuff that I was creating was the best because, I just didn't have any preconceptions about what it should be. And I miss that freedom, to just like create what I felt it should be. But of course, coming from sort of like an advertising background, I had an idea about how to create a documentary. So that's sort of what I was aiming to do. So I had a few under my belt, and at this point I started to look outwards and research what was actually on offer. And at that time, the style, as a generalization, the style of wedding films was really different. It's kind of, I guess, what you would expect of like a cliche, romantic, slow, very like generic cookie cutter kind of wedding video. And I think maybe what had happened over time is that people, videographers, fell into like a trap of looking at other wedding videos and thinking that's what a wedding video should be. I need to create that. And so they became very formulaic, it was like, I've got to get this shot and then I get this shot and then I get this shot. I think that's what I was seeing in the market. And so I guess it became very easy for me to realize that I wanted to change that about wedding videos. So, I guess I saw that there was a need that wasn't being met for a different style of wedding videos. So once I realized that was the thing that I could be fighting against, in a sense, the brand manifestation became really easy. So I guess it just sort of happened effortlessly because I had that really strong sense of I know what I don't want to be and I know what sort of films I don't want to create. So every other decision about, like the business name and how it looks and stuff like that just all came like really quite easily.
Cool. So it was a very deliberate and conscious decision to stand out.
Yeah, absolutely. Like it's not, I definitely didn't just pluck the name out of thin air. I wasn't just like, oh, I want to be really cool. Maybe it seems that way. Like it might, people probably don't realize like how much thinking and planning and research and strategy went into it. It definitely comes from a place of like, at the time, because I saw this like unmet need and I knew how strong it could be to stand out by positioning myself as something different. All of those decisions came easily about the business name and how it was going to look and the sorts of things that I would say. I think that it's changing. It's actually changed a lot for me, and I'm sure you're going to ask me about like what I plan to do in the future. But the motive behind what I do now isn't to stand out and be different, and it's not to change or like innovate the market, because I think that as a whole the industry has changed over the last few years, and it's no longer the different thing. I think it's now like it's quite the norm to not do those sort of like typical old cliche kind of wedding films. I think that's sort of a thing of the past, and so now I'm no longer like fighting against that. It's just actually what's expected now. So yeah.
Cool. And yeah, there definitely is a few more and more videographers who are finding their own little niches, and couples do have a lot more choice beyond just what they had like 5 years ago. Your initial decision to make a brand that was quite different, what was the sort of balance between the motivations for that being creative and then like economic? Like what was your sort of pulls for for that?
I think at first I had no idea about how economically viable it could be to stand out and do something that was different and have like a niche. All I cared about was that I was going to be able to do something that I would enjoy. So I just didn't want to leave my full-time job and do something that I wasn't going to something that wasn't going to allow me to like do and create the things that I wanted to. So, I mean, that was my only motive at that time, was like, I just want to make what I want, and enjoy what I do. So I guess the economic viability just came afterwards. And also, like, as soon as I started to put it out there, I think I realized quite quickly, like, you know, people definitely are attracted to things that, or brands or ideas that, like, stand for something, and mean something, and have, you know, have a belief, or are trying to innovate or, like, change the way things are done.
Cool. So it was definitely like at the time, you know, when you first did it, at least it was an authentic representation of what you wanted to put out there, not necessarily you trying to come up with what a bride's going to want, what a couple's going to want.
Yeah, absolutely. And I actually think that that's one of the biggest mistakes that I see. And yeah, especially in other markets, maybe not so much here, because I think maybe culturally we are, I don't know, maybe just a bit more. Well, I don't want to piss anyone off and say the wrong thing here, but yeah, I definitely see that, like, you know, in some other markets, people are really trying to, like, appeal to their clients, and, you know, they're, like, trying to research what does the customer want, or, like, what does the market want, and, you know, especially I hear and see a lot of people saying, like, what does the bride want? And I just, like, first of all, think that's the wrong way to go about it, because you know, like, sometimes there is no bride. But the other thing is, like, if you're constantly trying to mirror back what you think the market wants, or what your client wants, first of all, you know, you're only going to create, like, a watered down version of what the other, you know, everyone else is doing. Because if you're trying to find out what the customers want, you're all going to come up with the same answer. And so you're all going to end up creating something that's the same. So yeah, I guess my advice to that would be, like, stop trying to be liked by the market and just try to be respected. Because, you know, in the history of business, it's the brands that, you know, are respected and have something to say and have an opinion that stand the test of time, and go on to become the innovators, and you know, like, change the way things are done. And yeah, I think that there's a lot of people in the industry that are doing that are, you know, just staying true to what they believe is the right thing. And, you know, they stand out. And what happens then is you have, you know, like, you can, if you're one of those people, you can really influence the future of the way things are done, and you can then create the norm, or what's expected, and people will imitate you as well.
Totally. No, I totally get the, like, I think videographers, photographers, like, there's plenty of industries that are guilty of that kind of feedback loop of just everyone's looking at each other, everyone's looking at what everyone else is doing and going, oh, that's obviously what the client wants, and so I'll do that. And then, you know, it's just a perpetuating circle. And it's a hard thing to break. And, like, you know, I admit that I'm guilty of it too. Like, it's hard to not look at that. I mean, we're a business at the end of the day, and I get the fear that people have around, like, I want to appeal to as many people as possible so that I can book weddings. You know, people making these mistakes aren't businesses booking 40 weddings and turning brides away, or turning couples away. You know, these are people trying to book, you know, three weddings, 5 weddings, 10 weddings a season, and going, it's like, I just want to appeal to people. But yeah, I think it is a bit of a trap to do that, because you're setting yourself up for painting yourself into a corner, basically.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, what ends up happening is that you're creating work that maybe you don't want to be creating, And yeah, it's just easy to fall into a trap of like the safe way of approaching each shoot, you know, or the safe way of editing instead of like allowing yourself to be really creative. And then you also risk not being able to stand out and have yourself be known for a particular style, which I think my friend Nat in the background here has a lot to say about as well.
Yeah, nice. Yeah. Cool. And so to talk a little bit now about Till Death's style, what are some of the influences that have shaped, you know, your brand and your look and your aesthetic?
Well, okay, so in terms of, I guess the sort of tone of voice, so music has always been, you know, a huge inspiration for me. So I grew up listening to like a lot of hip hop and rap. And, you know, I don't think that there's a lot of like, you know, music that's in my work that, you know, I don't always use like hip hop music. That's not really what I'm talking about. But I think that the sort of attitude that comes from hip hop, like I definitely feel like I have tried to put some of that attitude into my brand. Some
vibe.
Of that kind of like, yeah, you know, it's almost like cheeky and audacious and bold. And, you know, a lot of the time if I'm like listening to rap, that's what I'm trying to make my brand be. I want my brand to have that kind of voice.
It's like a confidence, right? It's like a knowing that you're the shit. Like, yeah.
Well, come on. So I mean, music's like a huge inspiration. The sort of films that I watch, so yeah, I try to watch as many films as possible when I have time, but also like documentaries. So just watching documentaries as much as I can, and that's like because of the other sort of work that I do outside of weddings, that's the sort of work that I want to be doing. So I try and watch documentaries as much as I can. In terms of the visual style, the visual manifestation of the brand, when I was creating that, the sort of look, I suppose, look and feel that I was going for was very like 80s, 90s post-punk grunge culture. So, you know, I was looking at like a lot of, you know, like 80s, 90s graphic design, like David Carson and, you know, like a lot of MTV style zine culture. So, you know, at the time, this was, you know, a few years ago now, I wanted the visual style to be very like cut and paste. You know, I just kind of like drew on like surf culture, skate culture, to try and bring in some of those elements because that was the attitude that I wanted for my brand. I wanted it to be this like sort of underdog, very masculine kind of thing. So, you know, I was like drawing on the conventions of those existing cultures to try and give that connotation. And it works. You know, it's worked. It has worked well, but in terms of where it's going to go in the future, I think it'll probably grow up a little bit and change quite a lot.
Yeah, I'm interested to hear a bit later about you know, what your plans are moving forward. But what sort of couples do you reckon are going to vibe with, you know, with you and your brand? Because it's like, you know, all those things you're saying, like, that's hitting me, like, right here, you know, like 90s skate culture, hip-hop, you know, you know, surf magazines, all that stuff. I'm like, that sounds awesome. I want to film like that. But, like, you know, it's not like everyone's into those things, but do you think, like, couples are cluing into that exact kind of, those exact references, or is it, you know, is it casting a bit of a wider net?
Yeah, I mean, well, it's okay. So first of all, I don't think that my actual films take on, I'm sure that in some way I'm influenced by those things.
It's not like your wedding film looks like a 90s skate video, but
it's just, I guess it was more about like the attitude and the ethos of the brand. It's hard to know because like I don't know who I turn away. But definitely that was my, part of my intention was it wasn't really to like turn people off. It was just to like set the expectation. I mean, this is like what all branding does. Like this is the point of it is to kind of like give cues so that like part of the conversation has already been had. By the time someone meets me, they already know. There's already like a bunch of things that they can gather from the things that they've seen through my branding. So I think it's just a way to like establish that foundation of the relationship. So it's hard to know who I actually attract. I think it's actually a lot of people. A lot of people resonate with the things that I have said,
No,
it's hard
cool.
to know.
Yeah, no, I get what you're saying too about you don't know who you're turning away, but it's quite cool because on the last episode, I had Sean Tolhook from Lemon Tree Filmhouse, and he said a similar thing where he's obviously their branding is completely different to yours, but they've made the decision to make their website very polarizing in the sense that people will land on their website and go, I vibe with this or I don't. It's not trying to be a generically like soft, bring you in gently kind of vibe. It's like you either love it or you don't. And, that sort of like draws a line in the sand from the get-go so that, you're right. You've answered a lot of the couple's questions before they've even met you, which I think is really cool around just getting couples who vibe with you and are gonna make a good team with you making their films.
And absolutely, like I do intentional things, and I think like because I put a lot of myself into my branding, and so like I definitely use like a certain type of language, and I try not to like filter myself as much as possible, because if I do turn people off by that, I mean that's what they're going to get when they get me. It's like it's me, and I don't want to have to change myself or pretend to be something that I'm not, because otherwise I'm going to live an unfulfilled existence if I do that. So
you get burnt out from trying to pretend to be something else. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Have you I mean, it's hard if you haven't done kind of like split tests or anything, but have you experimented with language around I, as in like you, like the brand being like you as a person, personal thing, or like a kind of like we, general kind of like, a royal we as in the company? Because I've always struggled a bit with how I want to, portray my wedding brand, whether I have it as a kind of personal solo, the brand is me, or is the brand side project, and is it more of a removed kind of company face?
Yeah, I mean, I guess it was a conscious decision early on because I just thought it would be easier for me. It was making life easier for myself if I made the whole business and the whole brand myself. Of course, there are like downsides to that, and there's a lot of risk that comes with that. I guess I would have to just kind of like cross that bridge if I ever did want to step aside, or I mean, like who knows? Yeah, I don't really know.
No,
I think Nat could also like chat about that because I guess because I always just shoot by myself, I've never really said that I would have more people involved, but who who knows if that will change.
Okay. So you do every wedding solo shooter?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Wow. Impressive. Yeah. That's full on.
Yeah. No, I've just never, I guess I've just never really needed anyone else. If it's like a large wedding, if there's a lot of people, like probably over like 150, I would have a second shooter. But yeah, most of the time it's just me.
Hardcore. Wicked. Okay. So go back to a bit about the wedding industry and wedding films in general. What do you see as some of the kind of like, tropes and overdone things within wedding films that you consciously not do?
Yeah, I guess, okay, well, I personally, I try not to make everything slow motion, or, I guess the thing that stands out as like a trend that I think will probably phase out is just overdoing anything. So whether it's like overdoing, like slow motion, or overdoing like the use of like drone shots or any sort of effect in post, overdoing it, I think is like something that I think will phase out. And yeah, I mean, it's hard to say because nothing really annoys me anymore. I when I look at other wedding films, I don't have that same sense of passion to fight against something anymore. Yeah. Whereas when I first started this business, I was looking at all these wedding videos, and it was like a matter of personal taste. I was just like, I don't want that. So, I thought it's really easy for me to decide what I want my business vision to be, because I personally didn't like a certain type of or a style of wedding film. But yeah, I think now I don't have that same sense of urgent passion to fight against that. When I look at other people's wedding films now, I admire a lot of the stuff that I see. So I guess it's hard because I don't know what trends I don't like. I think I like everything. I think something that will sort of phase out completely is that sort of formulaic stand back approach that I talked about that wedding films used to be. I think because I'm not saying that I had anything to do with this. I guess at the same time that I was realizing that things needed to change, obviously a lot of people were having the same realization. And so I think, the style overall of what is the norm and what's expected and what's popular is changing to a more documentary, candid sort of approach. And it's the same with photography. I don't think people, the market expects this kind of staged, set up, huge production from a wedding film these days. I think people are wanting just what's real and wanting things to just happen as they happen. So I think I feel like that trend of the storyboarded formulaic approach is a trend, and it will phase out.
Yeah. And okay, so sort of to twist the last question a little bit, are there any wedding trends, wedding film trends that you do like but you don't feel fit the kind of till death aesthetic?
Well, I try not to have an aesthetic. I'd like to think that I don't have an aesthetic and that I can try anything I want. And so, I don't think there's anything that I wouldn't try. And I would never look at something and think that it doesn't fit within my brand, because the brand is me, and I get to control what I'm creating. You know, that's the way that I've set it up. So whatever decision I make, I don't think that someone, you know, I deliver to a wedding couple something that I felt was the right thing to do at that point in time, and I don't think they're going to look at that and think, hang on, that's not like your other films, or, you know, this isn't what we expected. I would hope that I've set it up from the beginning that, you know, there are no expectations. I just go about it the way that I see fit, because there are no weddings that are exactly the same. You know, I hope, and this is like my goal from the beginning, was to roll into every shoot, every wedding, and just capture what's happening as like real and documentary as possible. Yeah.
Yeah. Wicked. I mean, and that kind of goes back to what you were saying earlier around, like the authenticity of your brand. Like you know, if you are, you know, laying the foundations of your brand around like what is authentically what you like, then you've always got your kind of gut to go back to around like, do I like it? Cool. That fits my brand, because it's my brand is what I'm vibing with. It's not some external thing I'm trying to like construct, you know? So it's a lot easier to trust your gut on that for sure.
Yeah. I think one thing so when I first started, you know, I think what I wanted to create is actually quite different from what I do now. And I think that comes down to the fact that time becomes an issue, or, you know, the limited nature of time. And I think going back to what we were saying about like there's a safe way to do things, and you kind of like want to take each day as it comes, but at the end of the day, you know, there definitely is like a formulaic nature to a wedding day. You know, things happen in a certain order, and sometimes it's just easy to like, without even realizing it subconsciously, you're like, okay, I know that's going to happen. I know that's going to happen. This is where I'm going to be. And, you know, I think like breaking away from that is my goal for this next season, is to just come at it with that fresh eye that I once had, where I had no expectations. And so, and then even in the edit, like I just want to forget about this like natural flow that I've just fallen into, and kind of like break that and just create something that is like as true to the day as I possibly can. So yeah, that's, I guess, a trend that I don't even know if I would call it a trend, but it's just something that I've seen other people do, and I'm like, yeah, fuck, I really wish that I could do that again. Instead of like, yeah, I guess a part of you does, the more and more that you do, and the more you have booked in a season, like, yeah, part of you does kind of fall into like an autopilot mode.
Yeah, especially like as you get tired, and there is a bit of a wave you ride where like the first few weddings of the season you're always super pumped for, and you pour loads into them, and then you know the weddings at the end of the season you're kind of like, oh, okay, gotta push through, gotta get this done. You know, still balancing that kind of like you wanna do right by every couple, but you know, you sort of physically burn out after a while. Yeah, I mean, I guess like that comes down to like how close together and that sort of thing. I mean, I try to like definitely have the same level of enthusiasm for each wedding, but it's just the natural like autopilot mode that kind of like kills the creativity and the like you know, I hate to say the word, but like the organicness of it, which I miss. Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Let's talk now a little bit about constraints and putting yourself in a box. When I was chatting to Nat the other day, she mentioned the idea of putting yourself as a brand in a box. Do you want to talk a little bit about how that is important around defining, what you're all about.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I guess. Well, I mean, it's important, but I think like once again, like if you come back to if this like, okay, wait, can you just explain what do you mean by so putting yourself in a box?
Yeah. So what I mean by putting yourself in a box is, I think one of the traps a lot of people fall into is, one of the traps was trying to please the client, and you come up with a very inauthentic version of a brand. I think another trap people fall into is, even if they're being authentic, like putting too much of their self into, their brand, and not honing down a refined vision, I guess. And like, they might like this and that and this and that and this, and they put in all these sort of different angles, and the results are very muddy, kind of not refined brand. Like you just like from the influencers you talked about before, they just so happened to all live in a similar world. But if you had other things you were into that didn't really fit that vibe, that start to dilute the voice, I guess, of the brand. Like, what would you say to someone who is trying to, like, I guess, narrow their vision?
Yeah. Okay. Come back to why it is like what is your motive? Why are you in business? And I guess. Okay, so all of those things that I talked about, like skate culture and surf culture and stuff like that, and music, like, yes, I do like those things, but that's not the reason why I borrowed from those, existing cultures and use that as part of my branding. It's not because I just it's not because I happen to like those things. Like, it was a decision because that was the tone of voice for my brand. And like, I wanted it to be the disruptor, and like bold and audacious and those sorts of things. So that's the only reason why I reference like those things. So I guess I definitely wouldn't have done that if that wasn't part of the plan. Yeah. But I guess the fact that I do also happen to like them helps, because I'm not pretending to be something that I'm not. Yeah. And it becomes like it just comes very like naturally and effortlessly to make decisions about it, because it is me. Whether I think it's a good thing or a bad thing to put yourself in a box, well, I think it's important to like define.
Because I think the language you used was tone of voice, which I think is kind of the same thing. It's like a cohesiveness, I guess, around the all the little elements and whether they are harmonious or if there's too many or too few. I mean, I think it's like it's important, and it's like it's imperative, like to understand like what you're trying to say, or what you are trying to create, or what you stand for, or what the idea is behind your business. Like, it's imperative, even if it's just for yourself to know. You don't have to project that out into the world, but for yourself to know each day what it is that you're getting up for in the morning, and why it is that you show up to every wedding. It's crucial that you understand what that looks like. Cool. And being able to like articulate it in a profound kind of way helps, because people resonate with that. I can't tell you how many people resonate with the things that I've put out into the world.
because it's true. It's like there's no bullshit to it. It stands out like a sore thumb because it's true. It's not watered down. Yeah, it's because I'm not trying to do what the market wants, and I'm not trying to say what I think people want to hear, and I'm not trying to copy someone else. I'm not looking at another brand or business and going, oh, that's really cool. Like that seems to be working for them. Like I'm going to do that. I wrote everything just from a place of like, I'm so pissed off at the way things are being done. This is what I think needs to happen. Once I started writing it, it just flowed.
So to dive a little bit deeper around you writing it all down, do you have like a defined kind of brand guidelines or kind of steadfast rules to help you, stay on track with the brand?
Yeah, well, okay. So, I mean, I don't have like a brand guideline, but just the ethos that I wrote from the very, very beginning. That's kind of what I try and always come back to. It's like a paragraph.
Is that the ethos that's on your website? Yeah.
Well, now when I read it, I think like it's just so. I think it's like it's immature, and it's like, and that's what I need to kind of like revisit and define again, because as I was saying, like my motive has changed. It's no longer to fight against this particular unmet need that I saw in the world. It's something else now. But when I wrote it, like it was just so strong that was the only guideline that I needed. So every decision kind of like comes back to that. And yeah, I don't really have to like second guess anything, because it's just what I felt and what I believed in. So yeah.
Cool. Awesome. We've talked a little bit about, I guess, the kind of look of the brand, like the design, even like the films themselves. What is your kind of like you as a person and your interaction with the couple, both on the day and via email? How does that all play into, is there an element of, I mean, I realize you mentioned that it's authentically you and you just being you, but is there an element of your personality, being wrapped up in the brand somehow, and how that projects out to the couples?
Well, yeah, absolutely. Like 100%. Like, and actually, sometimes I think like the voice of my brand isn't me, but it's like a me that I want to be. Which is cool, because then, like I'm growing as a person too. But yeah, I mean, like in every interaction that I have, it's like me, maybe I amplify that again. It's like the me that I want to be. But I'm not like pretending to be something that I'm not. I'm just like trying to be a good person. Like just trying to be like the best human that I can be.
Yeah, because it's an important aspect, and I think because like a lot of videographers or photographers, and I think photographers are better at this naturally because part of their work is a lot more around interacting with the couple. But I think a lot of videographers especially tend to be quite reserved, introverted, and quiet, and it can come across fine. There's positive aspects to that in terms of like being stealthy on the day and people not, you're not distracting. But then there's a downside of that around like how you're interacting with the couples and the kind of experience you're establishing with them, which especially when I started, I struggled with. I would I was like, okay, I make my films, and that's what I'm good at. But as I've grown and as I've matured, I've realized that it's this whole experience, and everything from how you talk to couples, how you email them, it's all part of that voice and everything.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally. I think having worked on like a lot of the commercial sort of work that I do, and directing and stuff like that, setting the tone of the relationship early on is hugely important, especially if you want to get, with on commercial jobs, like when you want to get like the best performance out of your talent, you have to create the best experience for them possible from the very beginning. So in all of my communications, it's always as personal, and I'm setting that tone.
Cool.
Yeah, and on the day, I'm definitely not the kind of person that just stands in the background, and I'm not an introverted person at all. But I do understand that, there are a lot of people that are like that. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just, I can't help. I can't help who I am.
No, cool.
Yeah.
And talking a little bit too around the experience for the couple is packaging, which I think is again another area that videographers, including myself, haven't put as much time and effort and thought into as we probably should have. Have you thought much about your packaging? What are you kind of doing to kind of finish off that experience for the couples?
Yeah. I mean, I definitely have put a lot of thought into it, and I've played around with things, and I'm constantly experimenting with that. At the moment, I think my packaging stuff is not as cohesive as it could be, because what often ends up happening is when you want to change or experiment with something, you end up with old inventory from 2 years ago that you're still trying to get through. So I guess one day I'll kind of just decide to write off a whole bunch of inventory and put together something that's really cohesive, and really well thought out. But yeah, definitely the things that I wanted to leave with people is, I just wanted them to have something tangible that they can keep forever to think of me, or to just think of the experience that they had with me. And I also didn't want to give them something that they felt like they could just throw out. I didn't want it to feel disposable. So I've just put thought into how everything's presented. But that's probably another thing that Nat could talk about a bit better, because she does invest in her packaging stuff a bit more than me.
Cool. Awesome. It's something that, because I've just gone through a bit of a rebrand, and it's something that I'm looking to put a bit more effort into, because it's I've been guilty of the kind of thinking of my branding as my logo, my website, and my social, and it's so much more than that. And I'm sort of slowly starting to realize that there's all these elements of how I'm projecting my business's voice and the experience my couples have with that. I could do a lot better around just making the object of what I'm creating, the film, seem so much more special around them having an object to think of me around and stuff. So it's something that I definitely need to put some more thought into, but it is happening.
Awesome.
We've talked a little bit about that already. We sort of, just to start to wrap us up around the idea of branding. I guess in a simple way, we've kind of talked a bit about it already, but why is branding important? You know, if there's anyone who's, you know, in the midst, like me, of sort of doing a bit of a rebrand or might have thought about it, you know, what's some of the things they should be thinking around why their image and their brand is important?
Yeah, well...
not to put you on the spot or anything.
I mean, that's a huge and like loaded question. Like, it's important. Well, it's important for lots of reasons. It's important because in this day and age, you know, in the like the Insta business world that we live in, I don't think it's enough to just have a good product, or, you know, even to just have an okay product. You know, it's if you want to attract the people that you want to work with, you need to be found, and you need to have an idea and something. You need to be able to like offer some value more than just the product that like you believe in. You need to like make them believe in it as well, and want to get on board your ship. So yeah, that's why I think it's important. But on the flip side of that, like, I also think it's equally as important to have a good product and not just have good branding. So this kind of would segue into like where I plan to go next. Like I think it's like not good enough just to have good branding and just to have like a loud voice, or just to be like saying that you're innovating things, or that like you are fighting against something. It's not good enough to just be that, have that tone of voice. Like you have to also follow through and be able to create what you say that you're going to create. So I guess that's the challenge. And there's this a theory called like the purple cow theory. I'm not sure if you're aware of it. It's like by a guy by the name of Seth Godin, and he talks about like the purple cow as in like you're driving down the freeway and you see like all these brown cows on the side of the road and you take no notice of them. But as soon as you see a purple cow, you're like, holy shit, stop the car. I'm going to go take a photo of this purple cow and I'm going to make it go viral on the internet because I've never seen one of these things before. And so, you know, like he is saying like, be the purple cow, be the different thing. But then there's also the other side of that coin, which is like, there's no point being the purple cow if what you have to actually offer isn't remarkable or isn't going to like add value to people's life. So don't just be the loudest person in the room, actually have something important to say or offer. Because, yeah, I mean, the thing about being like an innovative brand is you'll have imitators. As soon as people start to see that what you're doing works, people try to copy that. But if they don't have the product, or the, you know, if what they're offering doesn't stand up to what they're saying, then you know, I think people can see that gap very obviously, you know, and it ends up coming off as it's inauthentic, and people just see right through that. So I mean, that's another reason why like branding is important, and just having a clear, strong, authentic motive is important, because we're so used to seeing inauthenticity through brands and corporations that we automatically switch off to it, or we can just see straight through it. You know when someone's lying to you, or you know when someone's trying to sell you something, and you just end up tuning out to it. I think that's why like what I've said has stood out to people so much, is they just see it as like, I'm not trying to sell anything. I'm just trying to be me, and just trying to like create what I think is good. Yeah, that's why it's important.
Perfect, amazing. That was fantastic.
Was it? I just feel like that was a bit of waffle, because I've had 5 shots of coffee now.
No, it was. it was really good around like, I think people need to know that they're not the only ones who can sniff out bullshit. Everyone else can sniff out bullshit just as well as you. So if you're peddling crap, people are gonna smell it. So you
absolutely.
Yeah. And
if you're writing something because like you're copying words from someone else, or if you're like if you're writing what you think people want to hear, I mean you just like it's just obvious straight away. I mean also like if you're creating, like if the work that you're creating is like what you think people want, or just another iteration of like what you've already seen other people do, it just becomes this like watered down product that's maybe slightly better, or maybe just a little bit different from like your competitors. Instead of standing out and being like innovative and different.
Yeah, for sure, totally. Cool. All right. Well, last question for the main topic is what we've been sort of teasing the whole time is what is next for Till Death? Where are you going next?
Yeah, I mean, I don't like. It's a work in progress. So, I mean, it's always a work in progress. I think that's like a luxury that we have of having our own business, and also like not having a lot of the stakes aren't super high if we want to like try something different. There's not like multiple locations that we have to roll it out at. We can just like test things out. So yeah, I'm constantly trying to evolve it, but I guess what it comes down to is that like, my motive has changed, because I now no longer think that I'm fighting against this common thing, like this common evil, or I mean, it wasn't like it was an evil, but it was just like something that I felt really strongly about, that was like an injustice. I thought like, if I don't create this, like people are just going to continue to have like pretty shitty wedding films. So like, I guess now there's so many amazing wedding filmmakers that like, that's no longer my motive. I'm not like, I'm not competing against shitty wedding films. So it's hard for me to say. Yeah, that's what I'm working on. I don't quite know. I think what it is I guess my focus is now on just like creating the best work that I possibly can. It's hard to know. I'm currently like trying to define that, and I'm working with someone to help me sort of like understand and unlock what my motive is. Yeah.
Do you think the visuals of the brand will change much?
No, I mean, I'm sure it will be like just an evolution. I don't think it's gonna like dramatically change. It'll just be an evolution, because it's just needs to grow up a little bit, and like and stop being the disruptor. I think it's not really relevant anymore, because just as I said, it's not like it's the norm now, I think, to not have one of those like cliche wedding films.
Cool. Fantastic. Awesome. Well, I think I might leave our main topic there for now. And there was one other thing I wanted to chat about. As always, we talk about something outside of wedding films, and you've sent me an amazing documentary on a local family-owned restaurant and one of the guys who works there. So, do you want to tell us a little bit about this documentary and how it came to be?
Yeah. Okay. So, it came about because I had, I've had a couple of months off in between weddings, and I just wanted to use that time to like create something that I just I just felt like there was this itch inside me where I just want to like create for myself and just like just do what I know I'm capable of doing. But there was no client, there was no like brief. I just wanted to like come up with an idea and make something the way that I want to create work. So I've known Chris, the character in the film, for many, many years, and I knew the story of his family, and it was just like a story waiting to be told. And I just also wanted to like put this test on myself to see how quickly I could turn an idea around and make it something, that I could put out into the world. So I had the idea. When I was on a Tiger flight, I got onto the plane and I was like, fucking Tiger, oh my God, I've got like 4.5 hours of this shitty flight with no leg room, and I've got no TV and I've got no internet. So I was just like staring into space and just visualized the entire documentary exactly how you see it.
Wow.
And so I'm just like on my phone, just like writing all these notes, like, okay, and then we're going to do like this outfit montage, and he's going to like have a ciggy in his mouth, and like, yeah. So I just had like planned the entire thing. As soon as my flight landed, like the second I got reception, I messaged him and was like, hey, I've got this idea. I'm going to come and see you tomorrow. And he was like, yep, cool. And I also messaged my friend Dwayne Orris, who is also a wedding filmmaker here. I've known of Dwayne's work for so long, and I love his style of filmmaking, and I really think that like there was just only one person that could bring this vision that I had to life. So I messaged him and I was like, hey, what you doing over the next few days? And I explained the concept to him, and he was like immediately on board. So the very next day we went to the restaurant and did a recce, and like it was just the story was just like all there. Like you just couldn't write this shit or make it up. Like it was just so like authentic. So we planned a 2-day shoot for like the following day, or maybe there was like a couple of days in between, and shot it over 2 days. And then cut it, I think, within like the following 2 days.
Wow. And
spent probably like the next week tightening it up and doing post. But all up, it was like a two week turnaround, which I was like really excited about because, I just wanted to be able to push myself and make something that I'm like really proud of. But the best thing about it though has been like the outcome of it. So since sharing this and like allowing the family to share it as well, like just the impact that it's had on their on the restaurant and like on their customers, and it's just been like super profound, and I'm just like so honoured that I got to tell that story and help share their, what they're about. So, yeah.
That's fantastic. I had no idea around the timeline for that. That's amazing. I thought it was something you would have got like funding for and been like months in the planning, but
Well, I mean, I think it's just like as soon as the idea was there, like as soon as I had the idea, and like I just saw it all in my head. Every decision after that was just like super quick and easy, and thankfully it didn't require like a huge crew or like and thankfully Dwayne was available because obviously it was like wedding off season, so everything was able to like come together very quickly.
Wicked. Technically, what was it shot on? Because it looks beautiful.
Red.
Red. I was
Yeah.
going to say,
Yeah.
it looks stunningly beautiful.
Yeah. So that's Dwayne's.
Did your Dwayne use any lighting, or is it just all natural light?
Yeah. So he lit it. So he lit it. I mean, a lot of it was natural, but he did have lights.
Yeah,
and
cool. Yeah, it's a beautiful film, and this storytelling is really tight. I love that little outfit montage. It's so cool with that like hardcore music. It's wicked. And it's so nice that it's had such that positive outcome for the family and their restaurant, because that's what the film's all about. The fact that it's kind of the last of a dying breed, But no, that's wicked. Do you have plans to do more like that in the future?
Well, that's the dream, and that's that's kind of like the reason why I wanted to like use my last free time to just like create something that like I know can be done. So yeah, I would love more opportunities like that, and I would just love to have like a good balance of a few weddings and just time to like be creative and help tell like some of these other stories. Yeah,
totally.
Yeah.
Wicked. All right. Well, I might leave it there for today's episode. Thank you so much for great chats. Thank you so much for coming on. There was a shitload in that I think it's going to take a while to for me to fully digest, but that was fantastic. There was so much in that resonated with me, having just gone through / in the process of doing a bit of a rehaul of my brand, and it was nice getting a bit of reassurance around some of the thoughts that have been bouncing around in my head for months and months and months and months. It was great.
Yeah, well, feel free to like bounce it off me if you want, because like it always helps to just have someone else to bounce off. Like you have to. Yeah.
Wicked. If people want to find your work, I'll have all your links and stuff in the description. I'll pop a link to the documentary Like Coming Home down below as well. Anything else you want to leave us with before we go?
So I mean, all of this stuff and more I talk about with Nat from the Auburn Hour over there in a workshop that we also run called Now We're Here, so I can send you the link for that as well.
Absolutely. And is that a online course or a live workshop?
No, so yes, it's a live workshop, and
cool.
It'll be in Melbourne next year. Next September
cool.
will be the next one. So just hit us up. You can find us on the gram for dates and stuff like that. Awesome.
September next year, Melbourne.
Yes. Yep.
I might have to do a trip.
Yes, awesome. Yeah,
wicked, cool.
Do it.
Yeah, so we'll have all the info on that and all your work below, and we will be having Natalie from Auburn Hour Films on next episode as well. So that's very exciting. But thank you so much again.
Thank you.
And we will see you guys later. Peace.
Bye. Peace.
Peace. Done. Awesome. Okay.